Hey everybody, welcome to Enliven Wellness. My name is Tessa and I'm an integrative medicine practitioner in training, almost done with my master's degree, so thank you for being here. And I'm going to explain a little something to you about histamine and shortness of breath and how histamine could actually be one of the root causes of your shortness of breath. So, let me tell you a little bit about something called histamine. So histamine is stored in all tissues of your body, every single one. And they're stored in these little granules, like these little packets, right? And they're stored in every body tissue, from your lungs to your stomach to your large intestine, your small intestine, your eyes. Everything. Everything has histamine in it. So when the histamine is released from those little granules, you can have a wide number of reactions. So what happens is that there's a contraction of smooth muscle and also a dilation of blood vessels, meaning they open up. It can also decrease your blood pressure and increase your heart rate. Now, you can also, from a histamine reaction, your heart will start to speed up. I'm sure those of you suffering from this can understand and can feel that. Like your heart rate will start, and that's how you can tell, like if you've eaten a food that doesn't work for you, your heart will start to race, okay? And then you can have a wide plethora of reactions from a histamine issue, like from a histamine reaction. You can have everything from heart racing to like vision changes to anxiety to brain fog to oh my goodness, what have I experienced? Oh, crashing fatigue. You can have crashing fatigue. You can have like diarrhea, constipation, nausea, but you can also have massive shortness of breath. And this is one of the number one things that I know happens to me if I've had a histamine issue or a histamine reaction. Now, histamine also, let me explain this, it works like a bucket. So you'll have like histamine, you have this bucket, right? And you can keep filling it with histamine, but it's not until that bucket runneth over, if you will, that you'll have the histamine reaction. So you don't necessarily have to like eat one thing and then have a histamine reaction. Usually it takes a little bit of time for that bucket to runneth over, and then you'll have all of those crazy ass symptoms that I just explained. And a lot of people out there who are suffering from the chronic inflammation and response syndrome, chronic inflammatory response syndrome, SIRS, Lyme, mold, we all have very sensitive systems, and a lot of us are suffering from histamine intolerance and you don't even know it. So what are some ways that you can, so how does this contribute to shortness of breath? Well, you have those little granules in your lungs. So when the histamine is released from those little granules in your lungs, then your bronchioles and your bronchi constrict, meaning you go, and then you have a shortness of breath. And your heart rate is speeding up, so you're like breathing really fast anyway, and it's almost like a hyperventilation situation. And I know that that's what happens to me if my histamine goes overboard. So when my histamine bucket runneth over, if you will, first of all, my heart rate starts to go, I'll get brain fog and I'll get anxiety, and then I will have shortness of breath, big time. And I just experienced this with dairy. Unfortunately, I'm not good with dairy. I was trying it, and I definitely do not do well. And it was a histamine reaction that I had, and my cardio got weird, and then I stopped the dairy, felt better. I also broke out because of dairy, so I was like, darn it. But you might be wondering, like, how are some of the ways that I could heal this histamine intolerance? Well, some of us are just more genetically susceptible to histamine intolerance because of a lack of an enzyme called DAO that we have in our gut, and I'm one of those people, so I'm very susceptible to histamine intolerance. This is why the raw primal diet is working so well for me, I think, because it really lowers histamine levels, like big time. And I'm not gonna get hit by this car here. So it really lowers histamine levels big time. There's other strategies that I use. I've been using mega doses of specific types of probiotic that are histamine lowering strains instead of histamine increasing strains, because you can have histamine reactions from histamine increasing strains of bacteria, like probiotics. So you need to be careful what probiotics you're using. Now, if you're interested in more of these kinds of probiotics, please reach out. I do consulting on this all the time. And I've been there and done that. So if you're suffering from histamine intolerance and you want to learn how to get over this, please reach out. Other things that I do is you can follow a low histamine diet. And it's pretty basic. You want to avoid things like fermented foods, other than high meat. I mean, I react fine to high meat, but the other fermented foods, not so much. So you want to kind of like pare down the fermented foods. You want to stay away from certain spices and herbs like cinnamon and nutmeg and paprika, unfortunately. Curry spices. You want to stay away from different types of like fruits and vegetables, like certain kinds of seafood, unfortunately, like shellfish tend to be higher in histamine. And unless it's fresh or frozen is also okay. There's other different, you need to look up like a low histamine diet and really follow that. That's been really helpful for me. Of course, the number one thing you have to do though is de-stress. Now, why is this? Because stress is the number one thing that's going to convert histidine to histamine. And when you are more stressed, you're going to have a higher release of histamine through your system, and then therefore you're going to become much more reactive to anything histaminergic or any kind of histamine food. All right, so you've got to keep your stress levels down. That's going to be absolutely imperative if you want to control for this histamine intolerance. So, this is just a really cool little, I was like, okay, well, a lot of people are suffering from shortness of breath who are having SIRS and mold and Lyme, amongst other things, and perhaps this is actually what's going on with you is a histamine overload, histamine intolerance, mast cell activation. So think of this, if you're having shortness of breath, if you've just eaten something and you notice your heart rate start to spike and you have some symptoms, think histamine intolerance. But there are ways that you can live a happier life, and for me personally, it's been with the raw primal diet, which is very low histamine in its nature, using mega doses of specific kinds of probiotic, keeping my stress levels down, and I personally don't use the antihistamines. Some people use antihistamines or antihistamine herbs like or compounds like quercetin. You can also do a couple different, like there's certain herbs that lower histamine, and you can take antihistamines as well. They work for some people, they don't work for others, so keep that in mind. There's a lot of different strategies, and so anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I hope this video was helpful. Please email me if you're interested in one-on-one consulting at tgirly7@gmail.com and say I'm ready. You can also check out my website enliven-wellness.com, and I hope to see you very soon. Always make sure you subscribe, like, share, comment on these videos. It's so awesome. I love this community. So thank you so much, and I will talk to you soon. Bye!